Thank you, Susanna. Good morning, everyone. It is always a pleasure to be here with you guys, and Happy New Year as well, right? Yeah, let me get here. Thank you. Let me go over this. So the topic for this morning, it's going to be, I guess, relevant as we start the new year, right? We talk about thank you. Press OK. It's going to be relevant as we start thinking about, okay, Happy New Year, right? It's an opportunity, all of us, to think about, okay, we're going to start again. We're going to have a Happy New Year. But what does that mean, right? When we wish people Happy New Year, wishing lots of blessings, a lot of good things for 2016. But what does that really mean? And how do we actually turn 2016 into that Happy New Year that we're looking for? We need to start again. Right? And what does that entail? So for just the outline of some of the things that we want to cover this morning, we're going to talk about what is the definition for starting again. We talk about that, but what does that really mean? Why should we start again? Right? Are there areas in our life that we need to start again? Where are we doing fine? Where should our focus be? If we're talking about starting, we can't just start again all over the place. So where should we be focusing? And then how does beginning this process of applying, how do we do that using Spiritism principles? And then here, before we go there, it's not going to let me go back, so we use here. So I want to talk a little bit about the principles as we go down here. And when we talk about Spiritism, we're talking about the science, the religion, and the philosophy. So hopefully this morning we'll be able to reflect a little bit about the three of them. So what are some scientific principles that we see? What are some religious principles? And what are some philosophical questions that are going to invite us for some reflection? So as we think about starting again, we're going to look from different perspectives and see if we can bring it all in. So again, starting with the definitions. What does it mean to start again? And we're going to talk about the difference between starting again and starting over. I know we use those two words interchangeably a lot of times, but we're going to make a slight distinction between the two. So when we talk about starting again, we're talking about starting where we previously left off. It's going to include the previous. Whatever we did before, it's going to include that. Another synonym would be to recommence, to resume, to proceed. So when we talk about starting again, this is what we're talking about. In contrast with starting over. Starting over would mean to redo everything. Disregard all previous. And this is not what we're talking about. So we're going to see a difference between including the previous and excluding everything that came before. An example would have been if I was baking a cake. I'm not a really good baker, so this could probably happen. I burned the whole cake, right? If I burned that cake, I need to start over. There's nothing from that cake that I can reuse. So I'm going to start from scratch. Whole new batter, everything new. That would be starting over. For me to start again, I'm writing an essay, preparing for the lecture this morning, I get a phone call, I pause, right? Then after my phone call, I continue working on whatever I was doing before. And that's gonna be that difference. And when we're doing the research, we found an article that talked about that difference as well from the newspaper. And he talked about the difference between beginning again and starting over, right? From the HuffPost. And the main idea of the article said, stop starting over, begin again instead, right? This is the main idea of that article. This is like a mainstream news article. And then the writer of the article, she had some interesting quotes. So this is from the article. This is some of the things the author said. Every time we start over, we also attempt to erase our past or erase us, or at least part of us. So this is gonna be like if we were to start over. When we look to erase the parts we regret of our story or completely start over, we don't honor who we are today. We did not get to where we are today without our past, without everything that came along with that. And she continues, I would not be this happier, healthier, healing person without my past. All of our experiences come with us. I would not be this happier, healthier, healing person without my mistakes, We all have that from our past. We're not going to start over. We can't erase what has happened before. I would not be this happier, healthier, healing person without the previous unhappy, unhealthy, suffering person that I was before. Maybe 2015 was a very difficult year. Maybe parts of our lives really suffered. Maybe there are parts of us that were unhappy, unhealthy, or suffering at points in time. If we were to start over, we would totally erase everything that came along with that. And that would erase our learning process, right? All the progress we made would have been erased. So this is from the news. But we know that Spiritism has been telling us, right, that as well. When we talk about reincarnation, right, from the Gospel according to Spiritism, blessed are the afflicted, it talks about the forgetfulness of the past, from our past incarnations. But even in Spiritism, we know when we reincarnate, we're not starting over, we're beginning again, right? It's a start again process because we bring everything with us from before. So he says, on being reborn, human beings bring with them whatever they have acquired. So when a baby is born, a reincarnated spirit is starting, right, life, it's not starting over. It's beginning a new stage in its life. It's not a blank slate. They are born exactly as they have made themselves. Each existence is for them a new starting point. So they bring their memories, they bring everything personality-wise, intelligence-wise, all the experiences. We might not remember specific events of our life, but who we are as spirits has not changed. So it's just a new beginning. So this is the definition that we're going to talk about. But when we talk about starting again, there are a couple assumptions that we make, right? We're not just talking about, okay, we're starting again. Some assumptions that we made, first of all, is that we started something in the past, right? We can't restart something if we never started to begin with. So we're not talking about something completely new. We all have new projects. We're not talking about new projects, but things that we wanted to do. So we all deserve a gold star, right? I'm assuming that we always started something good in the past, and that was something good. We had the energy, we had the will, we started it. So that's the first assumption we make. The second assumption we make is that somewhere along the road, right, we're like riding along, we stopped. Whatever the reasons may be, we stopped doing whatever we started. And then the third assumption that we want to make is that we want to resume at some point. And maybe we made the resolution that 2016 is going to be that year, that we're going to start something again. And then we're going to look at that graph, right? So like there's stopping points. That graph does not have an ending point. We go up, we go down, we stop, we keep going, and that's what we want to talk about. So talking about the second one, that we stopped somewhere along the road. There are different reasons where and why we might have stopped, right? We can ask the question, why did the driver stop? The driver being us, our spirits. Why do we choose to stop? Or why won't the car start? Maybe it's something that happened externally that caused us to stop along our journey. And we can talk about different examples. Have a personal example in terms of why won't the car start. It's a literal example. My car literally wouldn't start for a whole week, and I couldn't figure it out why. Had a new battery, everything, it wouldn't start. I would put the key in, all the electrical parts would work, but the car won't really start. So that happened for the whole week, my husband driving me to work, picking me up, until we finally brought the car in to the mechanic. And what the mechanic found was that there's a sensor, when you shift gears, that it wasn't recognizing that my car had stopped. The sensor thought the car was still going, so it wouldn't start again. And this is going to be an important concept when we talk about being able to stop. If we don't know that we have stopped or that we need to stop, we won't go through this whole process of thinking about and starting again. You can't start something if you never stopped it in the first place. So for my car, that was an easy fix. We had to fix the sensor. They switched it out, so now my car knows when it's at park and when it's driving. It recognizes that distinction. And for us as spirits, if we don't know when we need to stop and when it's time to go, we might get stuck somewhere. The difference also when we terms of why would the driver stop, we might ask the question, who is riding along with us as well? Sometimes that's going to contribute if we want to stop or if we have stopped along the way. Who is with us along that journey? And we can think about, because we're We're never alone in that car, right? Even as spirits, we live in a society, we have families, we have friends, we're part of a group. So whoever we choose to be with us is going to play a crucial role in whether we're starting again, if we're stopping, if we're restarting along that process. And when we talk about resuming at some point, we need to make some important decisions, right? So we want to use this graph as a starting point. The sentence at the top says, I blank, start blank again. Each of us can fill in the blank. We want to fill in the blank with the different verbs going up the ladder, right? So I can say, I won't start blank again. Or I could say, I can't start blank again. Or I want to start something again, whatever that something may be for us. Then we can ask, like, how do I start that something, right? Or I'll try to do it until we get to the realization that, yeah, I can actually do this, whatever that project may be. And then we finally get to the step where we say, I will do this. So whatever that resolution may be, we always like make plans. Maybe we're like, I want to, right? That little guy where he says like the hands like looking up, like I want to do something. But that's not really a resolution. That's just a thought process, right? When we are really resolute in our decision, we're going to be up there. I will do it. There's no question about it. It's not a question mark. It's not a like, dot, dot, dot. It's going to be something, yes, I can do this, I will do it, and I'm able to do it. And then it's going to get to the final point where it says, yes, I did it. And then we can answer the question, which step have you reached today or this week or in life in general in terms of the things that we want to accomplish? Because certain areas of our lives, we might be down there like, I won't do it. It's something I know I have to, but I won't do it. I don't want to start it. Or it could be something that like, we're almost there. I'm going to try to do it. That's the willingness part, right? You can like show the water to the horse, but you can't make the horse drink it, right? That kind of analogy. So it would be something like that. So we need to ask ourselves, where are we along the line? Because it's going to be difficult. A person on the first step will not start again. Doesn't matter how much we try, how much we encourage, they're not ready to take that next step. So it's going to be a progress. So you won't like completely jumpstart, oh, I'm going to start running today, right? If I never ran in my life, I'm not going to run a 5K today. That would really hurt and I'll be in a lot of trouble, right? So it's going to be part of that progression. But when we talk about that progression and we want to talk about what we want to accomplish, we need to know what's the goal, right? And in education, in a lot of areas, we always want to start with the end in mind. What is the end goal for this process? If I'm going to go through the change, I'm going to do all the hard work, why? Why am I going to do it? What's going to drive me there? So for us, understanding Spiritism, we know that our purpose, our big goal is to evolve as spirits, right? To reach eternal happiness. So in the chapter 4, no one can see the kingdom of God unless he is reborn again, right? He's born again. Kardec asked the spirits this question: is incarnation a punishment and are only guilty spirits subject to it? We all go through the cycle, so is it just for spirits who really need it? And then the answer is very fitting with the sense of the goal. Like, why are we here? Why do we have to go through this process? So the spirits answer, the passing of spirits to corporeal life is necessary so that they may fulfill, with help of the physical action, the material world, the designs whose execution God has entrusted to them. So we are here because the environment here is going to be more conducive to helping us achieve whatever design God has for our life. This is necessary for their own good, as the activity in which they are obliged to perform will help the development of their intelligence. So whatever trials, whatever tribulations, whatever experiences we have, it's going to help us develop our intelligence as spirits. Being just, God must distribute everything in equal parts to all his children. So it is established that everyone starts from the same point, with the same aptitudes, the same obligations to fulfill, and the same freedom to act. So we have free will, and then we all started as simple and ignorant spirits. So we all had the same starting point. And through our choices, we're going to progress differently along the way. But this is our big goal, right? We want to evolve, we want to reach happiness, and we want to be closer to God. So why should we start again? So we have our goal in mind, we know the definition, but really, I started, I failed once, why should I try it again? There's this book by Tim Harford, he's an economist, and he talks about this concept of adapt. Why success always starts with failure. And the main idea of the book is that success comes through rapidly fixing our mistakes rather than getting things right the first time. And sometimes that's counterintuitive, right? We think of success as like you get it the first time. You learn a concept, you pass a test, and you got 100%. That's not really the case. And he gives many examples in the book, but we have many other examples as well of people who have failed, right? And they learned from their mistakes and they started again. So some examples from our culture, right, in the modern times. We have Michael Jordan, how he got kicked out of their basketball team in high school. The coach said he would never make it. Well, we know how that story turned out. So clear example of how he learned from his mistakes, and that was part of his success. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, her script was denied many times. We know she's very successful nowadays, right? I don't think anyone has not heard of her. So that was a success story. She learned. She got it right. She was able to adapt and be more successful. We know with Thomas Edison, right? And when he was asked about his invention of the light bulb, he said that he never failed. He just figured out 10,000 ways that it won't work, right? So he never considered that a failure. Like, no, I learned 10,000 ways of how not to do something. And that's the idea of resiliency, right? And there's always that quote, like, you won't fail if you never give up. These people who are able to adapt, they never fail because they never stop trying. There's always a pause, they always stop at some point, and then they start again, and again, and again, 10,000 times or 20,000 times, depending on how long it takes. We also have many examples from the Bible, of characters from the Bible that we learned from, that they had to learn from their mistakes, and they had to start again. Right? We learned from Moses, we learned from Paul, Peter, David, right? King David. All of them had to stop and start again and again. It wasn't just a one-time thing. They had to learn the process over and over. And in the book, it would be Soul and Heart, from Francisco Cândido Xavier, The Spirit Emmanuel, he also has a very fitting message that has the same title, like Start Again. So we're going to take a look at that message and what he says in terms of why should we start again and what would that message entail. So he says, sometimes you believe that all the blessings lie extinct, that all the doors are closed to the necessary renewal. And sometimes we are at that place. We feel like every single door closes our way. As soon as we approach it, it's a locked door. Okay? Sometimes we feel that way. But then he tells us, you forget, however, that the very wisdom of life determines that the day renews each morning. We forget that. That day comes, then there's the sunset, then there's the nighttime, and then it's day again. It's a cycle, it's a process. Nature doesn't start over. Nature starts again from whatever he left off each day, every day. Starting again is a process of nature, from the simple seed to the solar giant, right? The solar systems to the seed, it's always starting again. Time allows us to begin again in search of our authentic affinities, those susceptible affinities of inflating the courage to endure the trials of the way and ensure the contentment of the living, right? Of living. So every time we're starting again, we need that courage, and we need to find contentment to make sure we can keep going along the way. Everything in life can be started again, so that the law of progress and improvement is accomplished in all directions. Again, if we don't fail if we don't stop trying. So the law of progress will always making sure that everything will start again. Indeed, on many occasions when we waste the opportunities and tasks we're given in the Lord's work, we go back later in order to review them. But we are never too late. Right? This is how Emmanuel closes out. We are never too late. We will stop along the way. Right? He's so kind, in many occasions, well, it's probably in most occasions, right? We will waste opportunities that God has given us. And in most occasions, we will waste those tasks that come along the way. But we can always go back later. We can go back later tomorrow. We can go back later in a different incarnation, because we are never going to be too late. That's one of the gifts we have. We have the gift of time, and we have a very loving and forgiving Father who's going to give us that opportunity. But why is this so challenging? We know it's part of life. We know it's part of nature. Why is it so challenging to start again? Well, resistance is the opposite of growth. So every time we resist, we're trying to resist that growth process. And we need to overcome denial. That fact that, for example, if Thomas Edison never accepted the fact that it didn't work, right, he would not be able to try something new. So we need to accept that something has gone wrong. That's the first part. The second part is we need to overcome the inertia and the laziness that keeps us from moving ahead, whatever that may be. So we need to overcome that. And we need to overcome the quick fixes mentality. It's not a one-day thing. This is interesting, right? So my husband and I, as part of our New Year's resolution, like, we're going to exercise more, right? We're going to be healthier. So we started. We actually started on the 31st because we felt like the 1st was like too far away. And we've been going to the gym every day at the same time. We started, which is great. Monday came along, we're at the gym is full. We couldn't find parking. I was like, okay, this is going to be difficult. Then Tuesday came along, still busy. Wednesday came along, still busy. Thursday, we come. There's like a parking right up front. The parking lot is like nearly empty. The gym is nearly, it was like, it's only Thursday, right? This usually happens later in the year. Friday, same thing. Saturday, same thing. So even that quick fix, like if somebody went to the gym on Monday morning, felt like, I'm going to feel great, I'm going to exercise. Then Tuesday, the Wednesday, this isn't working, right? They already stopped. I was like, there's something wrong. Maybe it was just their schedule was different, but that quick fix mentality is not going to work. It doesn't take one day, it doesn't take 2 days. It's part of a process. So we need to overcome those challenges as we move along. As we're overcoming these challenges and as we're making all these decisions to begin again, where would our energy be best spent? Right? We only have a certain amount of time in a day like we talked about. We are very busy. So where should we spend our energy? There's a survey conducted. I'll make this one a little bit bigger. Bankrates.com. They did a survey. They surveyed 5,000 people, and they asked them about their New Year's resolution for 2016. This is what the results came. And this was actually surprising. This is the first time that they have done the survey that enjoy life to the fullest came in first place. So this is something new. All right, so we're going to look what that actually means. Number 2 was live a healthier lifestyle. This was also higher in the list this year than it had been in before. Lose weight was number 3. 4, save more, spend less. 5th, spend more time with family and friends. And then last one, pay down debt. So these are the top categories that people wanted to accomplish in 2016. And we can relate to a lot of these things. If we were doing resolutions or if we did resolutions for the new year, we might have some similar ones. This is interesting, but what's even more interesting is when they compared by age groups, right? So what they did is they compared by age group. So we see at the top the young millennials, and then at the bottom the senior 65 plus, and then it's the same categories. The first one is enjoy life, then healthier lifestyle, lose weight, save more, spend more time with family, and pay down the debt. And what I found surprising is that the goals for the young millennials is very similar to the goals of the seniors in terms of their priorities, right? So we can look over there. The millennials, it says here 18 to 24, and then the senior 65 plus, they want to enjoy life to the fullest, the most. That's the majority of their category, and they are worried about paying down debt the less, right? The least. They also kind of want to spend more time with family and friends in some extent, and then the middle category is about the same, right? They want to have a little healthier lifestyle. But when we look somewhere in the middle, then we can see that those things are not as important. Our priorities change throughout life, and that's normal. That's part of that process, right, of growing up. But we need to ask ourselves, why are the young people and the more elderly more worried about living life to the fullest? Is there something there? Because somewhere in the middle, that decreases. That's not a priority anymore to the majority of people. We get too busy, too caught up in the things of life that we stop enjoying life, right? That could be a positive thing, that could be a negative thing, depending on how, right, you choose to enjoy life to the fullest, but there's something there, and we're gonna look at that. Harvard did a study. It's the longest longitudinal study that they have done, lasted 75 years, and we're gonna take a look at that, asking what keeps us healthy and happy as we go through life. It's a difficult question, right? If we ask people at different stages, like the young millennials, the in the middle, they would have different answers. What's gonna keep me healthy and happy? And if you're going to invest now in our best future self, where should we focus our energy? So should it be on paying off debt? Should it be enjoying life? Should it be spending time with family and friends? Or staying healthy? So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, we know that happiness is not of this world, right? So we know that. And that in general, right, people from all walks of life, they're gonna, at some point, they're gonna complain that they're either not happy or that happiness was not made for them. So a lot of those people in the survey, they might have that similar feeling. So the spirits tell us that, dear brothers and sisters, this idea that people complain about being unhappy proves better than any possible form of reasoning the truth of the maximum from the book of Ecclesiastes that says happiness is not of this world. Indeed, neither wealth, power, nor the flower of youth are essential conditions for happiness. So whatever people are trying to figure it out in their lives, we know that it's not going to come from wealth, from power, or from youth. Happiness is not going to come from those three things. So where are we spending our time? So the study that they did, and this is the summary of the study, is also in a TED Talk. The title was What Makes a Good Life. So if you guys want to watch the 12-minute video, and this part comes from that TED Talk. So they did a study that followed two cohorts of white men for 75 years, starting in 1938. Move a little over. So 268 were Harvard sophomores. They were studying in Harvard College. And then over 400 of them were 12 to 16-year-old boys who grew up in the inner city of Boston. So these are the poorest neighborhoods, most challenging neighborhoods in Boston in the 1930s. So they followed these men for 75 years, sending them questionnaires about their lives every 2 years, monitoring their physical health, their mental health, every 5 years. So doctor exams, questionnaires, surveys, interviewing them in their homes, and they followed them for all this time. And this is what they found. They found that society, right, as a society, we place a lot of emphasis on wealth and leaning into our work. So we want to be more productive workers. But over and over, these 75 years, the study has shown that people who fare the best were the people who lean into relationships with family, with friends, and with community. The people who were the happiest and the healthiest, according to this 75-year-old study, were not the people who were focused on wealth, power, right, and the youth, like we saw that the spirits already told us, were the people who focused on relationships with others, actually investing in other people. And there are three key findings that they had. So they came away with one major finding. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier. But we could have said, well, we didn't need a 75-year-old study to tell us that, right? We knew that. We know that. But at the same time, do we align the way we live our lives with this understanding? So these are three things they found. Social connections are really good for us, and that loneliness kills. And this is a very important fact because when they did the study, statistics report that 1 in 5 Americans report feeling lonely in their lives. And loneliness is a feeling that will cause people to have worse physical and mental health as well. We also know that, but now we can see and say, okay, scientists are telling us this as well. So it says that the men in both groups of the Harvard study who reported being closer to their family, friends, and community tended to be happier and healthier than their less social counterparts. So if a person had, for some reason or another, that loneliness feeling in their lives, they tended to not feel as happy and as healthy. The people who did, they also lived longer lives. By comparison, people who said they're lonely or reported feeling less happy, they also had worse physical and mental health. So this is a fact. The second finding, the quality, not the quantity of those relationships matters. Right? So it's not just being surrounded by a lot of people. It's like, who are you choosing to surround yourself with? It isn't just being in a relationship that matters. Married couples who said they argue constantly and had low affection for one another, which the study of the authors called as high conflict marriages, were actually less happy than people who weren't married at all. And that makes sense. If somebody you live close to, it doesn't have to be a married relationship. It could be a parent-child relationship, a co-worker relationship. If you're always in that high conflict environment, that's not healthy, physically, emotionally, right? So that was something they found. And then the last one, good relationships don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains as well. The brain, right, in terms of protecting it from many diseases, even from age, right? Aging our brain in that sense. So being socially connected to others isn't just good for their physical health. It helped stave off mental decline. So if you want to try to be more active in our brain, how do we do that? Have better relationships, closer relationships with the people we love. People who were married without having divorce, separations, or any serious problems, so if they were in a married relationship without those high conflicts, they reported having less memory problems than those who had troubles in their relationships. And when they mentioned the people at the age of 50, what they found is that depending on how satisfied these people were in their 50s with their lives, that determined how healthy and happy they were going to be in their 80s. So today really matters, right? When we say we're building tomorrow today, whatever we're doing today, it's going to impact our future. It definitely did for these people. If they had that sense of contentment, of gratitude in their lives, that made it easier for them to be happier and healthier in the future, probably because they were already happier and healthier today. So this is what the findings found. So how do we start cultivating these good relationships in our lives, right? So good relationships, it says over here, the good life is built with good relationships. We know that, right? Over 2,000 years ago, Jesus already told us that loving one's neighbor as oneself. The effects of the law of love are the moral betterment of the human race and happiness during earthly life. So if we love our neighbors as ourselves, we're practicing that. We're going to have a better society, but we're also going to have happiness during our earthly life. Right? It seems like a contradiction. Happiness is not of this world. No, it's not, if we're looking at the material things. But if we can put our energy into that, into love, we're going to find that contentment and that happiness. And it's very important also, the forgiveness of the offenses. It's going to be impossible to have good relationships with the people who are close to us if we don't learn to forgive. We make mistakes, people make mistakes. We are not our best selves yet, right? We are fallible, we are imperfect. So learning to forgive ourselves and learning to forgive others is going to be crucial in cultivating these good relationships. So Jesus told us, the Gospel of Matthew, settle matters quickly with your adversary, whoever that may be, who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still together on the way. And that could mean while you're still together, but this person's still alive, in this incarnation, or you're still close to them. Doesn't matter, right? So we still want to do it while there's still time. Or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. This is not a physical prison. He's not talking about something physically that you're going to go to jail, but it's going to be the jail of your mind, of your heart, of your conscience that's going to hold you prisoner if you're not able to resolve these conflicts while there's still time. So learning to forgive and learning to love each other, that's going to be one of the ways that we're going to cultivate good relationships. So how do we start again? So this is the quick part that we're going to go through. We're going to stop, look, and go. These are the three things, right? So how do we start again? The first thing we need to do is we need to stop. Right? So we're going to stop. And this one I'll make it bigger because it's a good one. So it says, resolutions, me? Just what you're implying, that I need to change? Well, buddy, as far as I'm concerned, I'm perfect the way I am, right? So if we, for some reason, have this attitude, we're not ready to stop. If we can't stop and recognize that there is something imperfect about the way we live our lives or the way we are, it's going to be difficult. Because we're gonna have to realize like the core, ourself, like our will, our thoughts, and our feelings need to align for us to be able to stop and reflect. We're gonna need acceptance to know that we have stopped, self-knowledge to ask ourselves like, where did I stop along the way? If I stopped, like where did that happen? Why did I stop? And having the humility sometimes to say, wait, I haven't stopped yet, but I need to. I need to stop whatever I'm doing, stop, think about it, reflect. How am I feeling? Where do I want to go? What are my thought process? So it's going to take humility to, even though you might be going, to stop a little bit, like, okay, slow down. I need to stop along the way. So after we have stopped, we need to look. When we're looking, we're physically stopping, we're looking around us. We're going to rejoice always, right? This is what Paul tells us. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. When we have stopped, we're going to look around. We're going to figure it out. Where can we find joy in our lives? How can I make prayer part of my daily routine? How can we pray continuously? How can we have the serenity to trust God's answers? It might be the answer to just wait, right? That might be the answer. And we have the gratitude. I am grateful for blank. Like there's so many things we can be grateful for. And when we're looking, this is what we're doing. We start, we look, and then the last part, right? Because we know success is the sum of the small efforts that we repeat each day, day in and day out. So we might be looking for a while until we're finally ready to go. Because when we're ready to go, we can have that certainty that, as Jeremiah said, right, that God told us, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. When we're ready to go, we can be certain that we're not alone. God is going to be with us along that journey. And then while we're in their journey, charity is going to be our guide. Like, who are we going to follow in the journey, right? The initial reading said we're not just going to blast out Jesus on a t-shirt. We're actually going to follow his ways, his teachings. And without charity, there's no salvation. We're not going to get there. So charity, sublime word that summarizes all virtues. It is you who must lead the people of the world to happiness. There's no other way. We're not going to find it elsewhere. By practicing you, they shall create infinite joys for themselves in the future, and during their exile on earth, they shall, or you shall be their consolation. The foretaste of the joys they shall delight in later, when they are united in the bosom of the loving God. Charity is the way that's going to make us feel happy while we're still going, right? While we're still walking, while we're still driving in this journey. And that's going to be what's going to lead us to our goal. When we begin with the end in mind, the goal being happiness, we're going to practice happiness along the way, all the way, as we approach our destination. And then just to close up with a quote from Mark Twain that the presenter from the TED Talk also shared, we're going to see that there isn't time, so brief is life, for bickerings, apologies, heart-burnings, callings to account. There's only time for loving, and but an instant, so to speak, for that. So let's not wait for tomorrow to start this process, the process of starting again, the process of loving each other more and loving ourselves more along the way as well. Because this is going to be when he says, the seeds of love, right? We're going to plant seeds of love everywhere we go. And this is going to be the way that we can truly start again, and that we can make not just 2016, but every year of our lives a better year, a happier year for ourselves and for our counterparts. So thank you.